So our theme for the month of February has been inclusion. And 2 weeks ago, I opined here about how a community's identity can be determinative of who or what is included. The clearer we are about who we are, the more apparent it is who may feel comfortable in our company and who might not. Now, I expect some of you will remember this old Sesame Street song. We'll see if it comes up on the screen here.
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other by the time I finish this song?
No, it's rather unfortunate for these times that those balloons are blue and red. Those two colors have taken on some pretty specific meanings. So maybe see if you can change that visual in your head, in your mind's eye. Maybe see 3 green balloons and 1 orange balloon. I think that'll make it a little easier to use those colors to illustrate my points. Let's just say that FUS is green. And although there are many different shaped balloons here, some are inflated more than others, some may be bouncier than others and have longer strings, some might be slightly different shades of green, but basically FUS is green. This is your communal identity. You like it, you embrace it, you want to propagate it, creating more and more green balloons in the world. It's a beautiful thing. But sometimes an orange balloon shows up. Oh my God! You green balloons take notice, and I'm sure the orange one is very aware that they're not green. We can come up with all kinds of scenarios for what happens. Some greens may blush a little orange to make the orange one feel more comfortable. Some may inflate themselves to crowd out the orange balloon, or worse, pop its bubble. Some may love what it feels like to experience that breath of orange air. Now, the orange one may wear a mask to fit in, all the while feeling they can't show their orangeness, or blow themselves larger and larger to make their presence known, or conversely, deflate and slink out the door. Mixing green and orange, for those of you who are artists, mixing green and orange doesn't usually result in a pleasing color. You get the point, I think. How do we include difference in a community with an established personality and a culture? And do we even want to? You know, pluralism is the essence of inclusion. That is, to recognize and embrace differing beliefs and worldviews and cultures. Pluralism is what is expressed in the Coexist banner. You know the one. It's out there in many different versions. I especially like the top one shown here from Syracuse Cultural Workers because it explicitly includes Unitarian Universalism. And while it's possible, I suppose, maybe that a group could have a pluralist identity, it's likely very difficult. There's even a story in our history of an experimental Universalist congregation, the Charles Street Meeting House in Boston. It was envisioned by Reverend Kenneth Patton, envisioned to be a place for one religion, for one world, and its sanctuary was decorated with brass symbols from all the world's religions. But that congregation only existed for about a dozen years, from 1949 to 1961. So we can say that Unitarian Universalism values pluralism, but ultimately we do hold a UU or humanist identity as primary. I mean, if all the green balloons say that pluralism is central, then could that identity coexist with a balloon that holds that there's only one true belief? I'm I'm going to use a very specific FUS example here, but really only if you'll agree to hold it at arm's length as a case study to explore, okay? The subject is rather mundane, but like the balloons, I hope it can point to larger and maybe less tangible situations. Imagine that you green balloons have an identity that includes an assembly with particular elements. Good music, great music, an inspiring talk, and announcements that matter, and that neatly fit into a 60-minute package. You know, it's custom, it's convenient. And this timing has been crafted into a particular schedule that includes a mini meal, which involves careful scheduling and planning by those who carefully and lovingly prepare it for you, and also other programming that might come after that mini meal, all while making it possible for each of you to know how to plan your Sunday and how much time you'll spend or limit at FUS. This all makes complete sense, especially if you're a green balloon. But then enter a new minister, an orange balloon. And as ministry unfolds here at FUS, you may well call a yellow or a purple or a fuchsia balloon. I mean, who knows? Of course, in this particular case study, I'm the orange balloon. And upon entering, I had not yet been a part of a congregation where the timing of the assembly or the service has been expected to be so exact. In orange culture and ministerial identity, the elements of the morning are included based on their worth, either contributing to the topic or adding provocative counterpoints or giving space for reflection or providing important information. So while of course some attention had to be paid to timing, it's not a strong consideration. Now I'm going to leave this here because you should know and trust that we're working on this case study together. The kitchen crew is being as accommodating as possible. We're starting after meal programming at 12:15 rather than noon. I'm begging for your announcements to be as brief as possible. And I'm much more aware of how much time I can speak given all else that's happening. But this is a great case study, right? Green balloons value the clock and the mini meal. And this particular orange balloon values crafting a quality assembly for the one time each week that your attention is here on this community and its meaning in your life. We have differing values, if you will. And because of my agreed upon role here, I just can't be the balloon who deflates and slinks out the door. So we kind of have to work it out. And together, including each of you, I know we will, we're getting there, just like righty and lefty. Now, I don't know if this is helpful, but this Venn diagram shows an example of not only coexistence, but of finding the sweet spot among what can be competing values or objectives. Ever since I saw this model, I've loved the idea of looking at purpose or identity through this lens, finding that sweet spot where what we're good at, what we love, and what the world needs meets. And maybe this could be a way to expand a communal sense of identity, knowing that what we're good at can include the gifts of many different colors and balloons, and that what we value or love can be just as inclusive. Maybe inclusion happens when we're able to find that sweet spot of connection. You know, and I pulled that particular image off the web, and so the words could be changed there in those different circles to find where those places are that we overlap. But here's the rub, I think. Sometimes what matters to us, our values, are so important that we can't compromise. And hopefully we're talking about things here more critical than the timing of the assembly. There are places where we have to stand firm and claim who we are, individually and as a community. For racial justice, for reproductive justice, for trans rights, for the planet, for democracy, for putting love at the center. And it's a long list, especially right now. And there are other places where we might well examine if what we're insisting on is important enough to divide us. Last weekend, I attended a workshop on trauma-informed ministry. The workshop was for folks who are, as we say, baby ministers, in formation for ministry, folks in seminary doing internships, etc. And I was there as a chaplain to be available for anyone who needed support in that conversation. So what does it mean to be trauma-informed? It means acknowledging that many, if not all of us, have experienced trauma that has created these hot and tender spots in us. And then using that information to minister to one another with care and awareness of how that trauma can be reactivated and do more harm. And it's a real thing. And it likely doesn't surprise you that this is common in UU settings. Many folks, some of you, are here looking for an antidote, a balm, something to help heal spiritual abuse that you've suffered in other settings. Anyway, in this workshop, in a small group, I shared my experience of witnessing religious trauma as a kind of protection of an identity. And that comment touched a sore spot in one of the attendees. And as the young, the new, often have wise perspectives on things, they carefully explained how closely held an association with religious community can be, how close to the bone it is, because, in part, because of those past experiences, which means that it really hurts when that identity is questioned. It feels like betrayal or being violated or excluded or unseen, and we need to attend to that. We're hurt. We respond with lament. As minister and religious educator Martha Durkee Newman says, our heartbreak points to the presence of a value deeply held, a value that has been violated. We lament because we love. We lament, we react, we hurt when a value we love is violated. And so, though not entirely like an identity being based in a 60-minute assembly, we can lament and protest when a congregational identity grounded in being unlike another is questioned or violated. So I pose to you, and I leave this with you in the interest of making this morning's assembly as timely as possible. How or how much can we be inclusive of difference? I want to believe that the answer is not that we can't be inclusive. I also believe that a community needs to be clear about its identity and what it stands for. How much can green warm up to orange in the interest of finding sweet spots of simpatico and common purpose? I suspect the answer to this is in knowing what is important to hold on and what's important to hold on to and what it is that we can let go of. Because in the words spoken earlier, despite all that is different, there's one thing that is certainly the same. Somehow, we are all right here, right now. So be it.